From social media's biggest tech junkies gearing up for an epic showdown, to the UFC president all in for the massive crossover fight. Here's Dana White's reaction to the potential Musk vs. Zuckerberg fight. This is not a joke. The two tech elites are really going to clash in a cage sooner than you think. I know, it's the weirdest thing we've seen in a long time, but it turns out they're dead serious about this fight. For one, Musk has a tendency to call out every celebrity he can find to fight him. He's done the same before with Vladimir Putin, wanting to fight him and settle the Ukraine war. It's pretty obvious the Russian leader didn't bother to respond to the eccentric billionaire. But you get the point. And while he's been going around doing the same with others, he finally got a response from his tech rival, Mark Zuckerberg. It's a new era for Mark, who's suddenly gone from being a tech junkie to a fitness freak. I have to admit, he's really stepped up his fitness game over the past few years to become a tiny 5'7" fighting machine. As for Musk, he's built quite differently. He's taller and a lot more heavily built than the tiny Zuckerberg. To top it off, Musk's out of shape, has no definition, and isn't exactly a sportsman of any sort. Sure, he tried his hands at some jiu-jitsu, but he never really had the discipline to commit to it the way Zuckerberg has. But has that stopped him from calling out random people to fight him? Of course not. With the kind of confidence Musk has, he's not scared of anything. But really though, what in the world are these two tech junkies doing fighting each other? This is going to be one heck of an MMA fight. They've already received all the publicity they need, just by talking about the fight. It's not just MMA fans who are hyped for this one. If you dig in a little deeper, you'll see that their shared plea for attention might just be a way to distract their users from what's really going on. You see, right before the cage fight news broke, Meta announced it was going to cut off access to news on Facebook and Instagram in Canada. Why? Well, it turns out there's a law that says tech companies need to compensate domestic media outlets whenever these companies link to their content. Meanwhile, Musk's reputation hasn't been so great since 2022, especially with the million controversies he has to his name. But with a fight like this, the two tech rivals are going to get all the attention they need. Musk already pulled off stunts like this to divert media attention, like the time he smoked a bit of Mary Jane on Joe Rogan's podcast, or when he named his dog the CEO of Twitter. But let me tell you, this isn't the first time Musk and Zuckerberg have had a face-off. Sure, there weren't a lot of actual physical fights, but they've got quite the history. Although, what really set the stage for their beef was a SpaceX rocket carrying a Facebook-owned satellite in 2016. Long story short, the launch failed, and the satellite that Meta was planning to use to deliver internet service in Africa was completely destroyed. Ever since then, things have been a little frosty, especially with Musk going public and saying social media apps like Instagram are ruining mental health. There was also the time when his said that one of his goals with Twitter is to maximize unregretted user time, which, believe it or not, is a pretty obvious swipe at Meta. Speaking of Zuckerberg, his last tweet was in the early 2000s. While the two tech junkies aren't exactly friends, the fight isn't just between the two, but between their social media companies as well. The stakes are higher since Musk jumped on the social media wagon in 2022 when he bought Twitter, even if he had to go through a whole legal battle to do so. And if all of that wasn't enough, it turns out that Meta is working on a Twitter-like text-based social media app. A top executive from the company claimed their version was going to be sanely run, unlike whatever Musk has going on with Twitter. You have to admit, he's not exactly the traditional kind of businessman, even though he definitely knows how to win the game. But the real question is, who's going to win a fight between the two? Honestly, there are a bunch of theories going around, so let's pull out the facts. Musk has the bulk, no doubt, topped with the height advantage. But Zuckerberg finished the Murph challenge. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically a workout that's going to make you sick to your guts if you're not used to it. I'm talking about 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and a mile-long run, all of which need to be done wearing a 20-pound weighted vest. Clearly, Zuckerberg spent 2022 turning himself into some kind of miniature Silicon Valley Terminator, while the father of 10 Musk has been training his Twitter fingers and pocket rocket instead. Based on this alone, you can easily say Zuckerberg's going to crush Musk. But hold your horses, because I'm not done yet. Sure, the Meta CEO has earned himself a white belt in jiu-jitsu, which is basically the first rank of 5 in expertise. Plus, he's younger by 12 years, which is exactly why a lot of people in the MMA community are putting their bets on him. But let's not underestimate Musk, who has a huge advantage in MMA thanks to his size. We've seen it happen way too many times to ignore it. most of the bigger guys tend to have more leverage in the cage. Plus, Musk's already got one of his killer moves ready called the Walrus, where all he does is lie on top of someone and do nothing. And let me remind you, he's about 187 pounds, while Zuckerberg's stuck at 154. That said, putting money on either of them isn't the safest bet. Let's be honest, neither of them has the skill to knock the other out, but it could still be an ugly fight. Plus, if they're going to throw fists under the UFC, it's going to be regulated. So get ready to see them in headgear and all the other protective gear. Everyone's hyped for the fight, including the UFC president himself. And why wouldn't he? He's got two of the world's richest men ready to throw down in his promotion, right after some petty trash talk on social media. If anything, White loves drama as much as Musk, so he's all in for it. Plenty of predictions are coming in, with Musk's father calling it a no-win situation for his son. Think about it. In the $1 billion Vegas super fight, if he faces defeat, he's going to be humiliated. But even if he wins, he's going to be branded as a bully at the very least. At the same time, Musk's definitely a bully and he wears that as a badge. So I don't think that will faze him in the slightest. At the end of the day, for the tech rivals in white, it's all about the Benjamins. Even former UFC star Chael Sonnen claims it's at least going to do 10 million pay-per-views, and that's just the beginning. If you ask me, it could even go closer to 25 or more. Not to mention, Facebook and Twitter are going to be hosting pay-per-views too. So let's just say it's going to be insane. All MMA fans can't stop complaining about is how he usually hates crossover fights, especially when it comes to some of the top heavyweights like Francis Ngannou. But now, he's all up for the Zuckerberg versus Musk fight, even though it's another crossover. To top it off, he's also trying to make a Jon Jones versus Tyson Fury fight happen, even though most people would say that's out of spite. All I'm saying is, White is going against his own statements. He's not going to let this fight between the two biggest tech junkies slip right between his hands. In his defense, even if it's a crossover fight, it's one that literally everyone is going to want to watch, including non-MMA fans for that matter.
You don't have to be a fight fan to be interested in this fight. Everybody would want to see.
Plus, with the Meta CEO becoming a diehard MMA fan in 2020 and training in multiple martial arts, it's setting the stakes high for this fight. Even UFC heavyweight Jon Jones is backing up Zuckerberg on this one, offering to train with him right before his professional debut. But Musk's got quite a fan following himself, with fighters like Jorge Masvidal and Dominic Cruz backing him up. It's safe to say that this is going to be one of the biggest fights fans have ever seen in MMA, and White's going to enjoy every bit of it. So there you have it, from the UFC president all in for the massive crossover fight, to social media's biggest tech junkies gearing up for an epic showdown. That was how Dana White reacted to the potential Musk versus Zuckerberg fight.